I'm Clinton.
And welcome to Black Atlantic. We are a primarily Black Atlantic-centric podcast, website, and media channel with the goal of bringing POC Atlantic voices to the world.
You can expect to hear from us every week with guests, segments, panels, roundtables, exploring topics from all over Atlantic Canada. Hillary, how are you this week?
Good. I was saying to you before we started, a bit tired. Some friends of the show invited me down to Nathan Phillips Square for skate day, for Bob Marley Day, which is very excited to see a lot of brothers and sisters out there celebrating. It was very nice. Beautiful sunny weekend. And then I went to Italy, which is like a very hyped up Italian restaurant and shop, but I had been sort of boycotting it for a while because of cancel culture, but it turns out that I was misinformed. And so I was happy to finally go and check it out and eat there. And other than that, I would say that this week has been crazy busy because we launched the podcast. And I don't know what you were expecting, but I am very happy with all of the positivity, all of our friends really supporting us, the Black community supporting us, the Atlantic community supporting us. And my CBC interview with Gary Weeks aired, and it was very exciting to find out that got featured on CBC being Black in Canada. So this week has been stellar. How about you, Clinton?
My week's been good, and I was very happy with the launch as well. The Facebook page has grown to more than I expected in the first week. The podcast had some good feedback, and as expected, we even got some negative comments, right? So things are on track with that. We've had people complaining under our comments and posts with just some of the most ignorant comments ever, but that is what we are used to, the stuff that we do. So that's been good. My week's been good. It snowed in like crazy over here. Had the snow plow twice in one snowstorm. Today we got to have a mini birthday party for my 3-year-old. Finally, his birthday was a month ago, but due to lockdowns, we just chose not to do anything. Salon's back open, and life is good. It's been a good first week. Like you said, the podcast launch and the media site went well. The website's growing. Week 3, I think, of stopping coffee after drinking it for more than half my life, which has been quite the endeavor, but I'm staying strong. And that's my week. Things are pretty good.
That sounds super good. Yeah, the storm looked pretty hectic, and I felt really, really bad. Yeah.
60 centimeters. Yeah.
No, thank you. And it was 30 years this week since this storm of 92 that infamously over 5 feet of snow in Moncton. So
I was in Toronto for that one. We were called in the military to plow our streets.
Oh my God.
We weren't ready for a snowstorm like that.
No. We weren't ready for the snowstorm that happened here last week when we only got 34 centimeters. They're still trying to clear out cars on pave.
Yep.
That's Toronto.
That's what it is, though.
Anyway, are you ready for the first guest of Black Atlantic?
Totally ready, because I already know it's a really cool guest we're bringing up. So
very cool guest. So without further ado, I will get into the intro. And this week's guest is Greg Frankson, currently residing in Whitby, founder of VoiceShare, a published writer. And the reason we have him on is he is the editor and has some works in the AfriCANthology, an anthology of the Black perspective writing from across the nation. He is an award-winning literary artist, media commentator, the former Canadian National Poetry Slam champion, amongst other accolades. Greg, how are you?
I'm just here relaxing, listening to Hillary and Clinton get it going. You know what I mean? Hello, Black Atlantic. Very excited to be here.
Thank you. I will start by giving some context that a friend of Clinton and I's is Sandra Wayne McCarthy, and of course his mother, Mary Louise McCarthy. I would say pioneers of the Black community in New Brunswick who are doing a lot of good work. And when we had spoken to him not too long ago, he had mentioned to be looking out for a publication of his works, and I was keeping my eyes open, my hands on the pulse, waiting. And then I saw him start posting about the AfriCANthology. And then I also became familiar with Gary Weeks, who then also started posting about his work doing the cover of AfriCANthology. And so then I had to dive in and learn more about who was all involved, who was putting all the pieces together. And I very quickly found your name, found your Instagram, asked you to be on the podcast. And that same day, I think we had a 3-hour-long phone call, maybe, where we then became best friends. And then you brought over some copies. Something like that. You brought some copies for us. I was amazed by the works in it. And then a few weeks later, you helped us deeply by coming up with the name BlackLanic. And I believe we will be forever indebted to you for such a clever way to really express what we want to be doing. So thank you so much, first of all. Thanks.
Yeah, it's all good. I mean, I just got to, share the love because, the Black folks out on the Atlantic side, there's just this incredible history and depth and richness to the communities that are based in the Atlantic provinces and Newfoundland. So, I mean, this is amazing. I'm so touched to be able to be here with you folks today. And I also have to say that going out east is some of the most fun that I ever have had, in my life and in the things that I've done throughout the years as an artist.
Amazing.
We should hear about some of that before we get into our questions.
Yeah, tell us about
the
that.
East. And
yeah.
I was going to ask you that. Sorry, Hillary, I'm throwing stuff out of the mix already.
No, go for it.
I got my curiosity piqued. Tell us about the East and what you loved about it.
Yeah, well, I have been out east many times. I have been to 3 of the 4 provinces. Strangely, I've never been to PEI, but I have been to New Brunswick and Nova Scotia and to Newfoundland. I've gone out to St. John's on a number of occasions. I love St. John's. It's a really cool place to be. Most recently went out there to do some training of some teachers at Memorial University. So that was cool. Halifax, I've been there many times for artistic reasons, to participate at the Canadian Festival of Spoken Word when Halifax hosted it, and then also to feature at shows that were being put on there by, some very famous, well-known personalities, folks like, Reed Israel Jones and L. Jones and all of those cats with the Word is Bond Poetry Collective in Halifax. So I've done some stuff with them. But I should also say that I spent 6 weeks in Halifax during the federal campaign in 2005, 2006, the winter campaign. I got recruited by Alexa McDonough to work on her local campaign. And so I actually spent those 6 weeks driving her around and canvassing and going to events, learning Halifax through the eyes of Alexa McDonough and having that experience in poetry. And I ended up writing about it, called it the Halifax Chronicles. And that's been included in my most recent poetry book that I put out before AfriCANthology. In November, I released a book called Cerebral Confections. And so that whole story of the campaign is in Cerebral Confections. So, so I just wanted to send a shout out to, to the family, to the McDonough family, and just, passing on my regards and my respects and condolences on her recent passing. So that's sort of like a big piece of my experience out in Nova Scotia. But I've also been to New Brunswick. I went there once for a conference in Fredericton. So I've seen the provincial building in Freddie. I've been there. And then I also went out to do some youth arts project work way back. I worked for a short period of time with the United Nations Association in Canada. And I ended up going to Moncton for that, and we did a quick trip over to Shediac, which was the first place I ever dipped my toe into the Atlantic Ocean within the Canadian boundaries. Out there while I had taken a break from the big lobster party that we were throwing on the waterfront. So yes, so there's a lot of experience for me out east. Sorry, that was a long ramble, but yes, there's lots going on there.
No, you are truly well associated with the Atlantic. That's quite more than we hear from a lot of Ontario natives.
Yeah.
Are you born and raised?
Yeah, I'm a Scarborough kid, man. Straight up.
All right. Okay, so that's a lot more than most people don't know that Canada goes past Quebec. So
exactly.
You're doing good. Awesome.
It's like it's Montreal, and then it kind of just washes out into this big white waste.
Yep. Cool.
I think that
Yeah,
that's
man.
great too, because to me, hearing that and knowing what I know about the anthology and your vast network, and we're going to get to that later, but how much you know about Canada really speaks to how I'm going to assume how important it was to get so many amazing people in the book who express all of the different perspectives in all of the places that you've visited and probably collected your own perspectives of those places. So I find that super fascinating. But I'll start with the first question, which is all about you and your upbringing and being that Scarborough kid. Tell us about you before we get to all of the writing stuff. Who is Greg Frankson?
Yeah, well, I was born on a cold Tuesday in January 1975. But that's actually
I was gonna say, I know when your birthday is. That's legit.
That's legitimately true.
Yeah.
So last I guess about 10 days ago, I had my 47th birthday. So that was very exciting. I was born at Toronto East General Hospital, raised in Scarborough. And and I lived in the Kingston Galloway Orton Park neighborhood. That's where I'm originally from. And and I attended high school there, graduated, and then I went away to Queen's University, where I was located, Kingston, Ontario, for 6 years of my life. While I was there, I got very involved, and that's sort of where I kind of came into my passion for social justice related work, and also for teaching, which is what I studied at Queen's. While I was there, I became the first Black president of the oldest student government in Canada, the Alma Mater Society of Queens. I was president number 138 in the history of the organization. And while I was president, I led a student movement to pressure the university to name and commemorate things on campus after Robert Sutherland, who was the first Black graduate of a university in Canada, the country's first Black lawyer. And when he died, his bequest back to the university helped them at a moment where a bank collapse had just destroyed their endowment, and they were about to be taken over by U of T. So the bequest that Robert Sutherland left was the foundational piece of a massive fundraising campaign that saved Queen's as an independent institution, because it was just about to become part of U of T. So literally a Black man is responsible for Queen's being an independent institution. So that was sort of my first experience with, being part of creating and saving and sharing Canadian Black history for future generations. And so after that, went on to become a teacher and a trainer and doing all the work in the community, and then stumbled into poetry. I've now been doing spoken word art for 18 years. And I love it. It's the creative expression is a passion of mine, but it's also heavily influenced by the music and the hip hop that I was engaged in as a young person growing up in Scarborough, rapping. In high school, I was in a rap group with Shock Claire, Juno-winning MC. So I've known Shock since we were little kids, and so all of that stuff comes naturally to me, and it's very much a reflection in the poetry that I share, which is very rhythmic, which is very musical, which is very lyrical, and which also depends upon various aspects of my Jamaican heritage and my Scarborough upbringing to bring the message, and for me to deliver on my personal mission statement, which is to present the vision that inspires others to positively change the world.
I think that's amazing.
That is amazing. Chiznaka, You're in the rap group with the Chiznaka?
Yeah, man.
Amazing.
Absolutely.
I was so excited when his first album dropped back in the day. Go ahead, Hillary.
Oh, yeah.
It's okay. No, I was just going to ask my next question, which is because I mean, we became friends very quickly. Don't know everything about you. Learned about the pen name Ritalin while flipping through the book. Just wondering, why? In the same way people ask me why Cropberry, and my answer is super stupid. I'd like to know if there's a lot of good reasoning behind that one, or if it was just something superfluous at the time.
Well, the deep reason behind Ritalin is that the actual medication, methylphenidate, is prescribed to folks who are, living with, attention deficit disorder.
Mm-hmm.
and the drugs to help people to focus. Because the problem with that people with ADD experience is not that they're unable to focus at all. The problem is that they're attempting to focus on everything all at the same time. And so what the drug does, and because I live with ADHD myself, what the drug does is it allows people to focus on things one at a time so that you can dial in and get things done, and you can figure out what's important and get it moving. So if this drug is meant to cause people to focus on the things that are important, that's what I believe my poetry and my writing is about. To clear away all the mess, all the nonsense in the world, and have the people focus on the issues that matter. The real story of how I got the name Ritalin is I was sitting in a living room. I had written my first poem. I was about to take it to stage. This is the summer of 2003. And so it's a long time ago. And my girlfriend at the time and I were brainstorming different possible stage names, because I'm like, Greg Frankson, that's too boring of a stage name. I need to come up with something a little more interesting. So brainstorming, terrible ideas were coming out. And as I was sitting there brainstorming, I realized I was fiddling with something in my hand. You know how you just kind of subconsciously do that sometimes. And I looked down and realized it was her pill bottle because she has ADD. And then I read the label and it said Ritalin. And I was like, yeah, Ritalin, that'd be hilarious, wouldn't it? She's like, no, that's perfect. And that was how I became Ritalin. But, you know, later on, as I thought about it, I was like, no, it's actually super appropriate. And so that's what it has come to mean to me about having people focus on things that are important.
What an amazing answer. That's so cool. That's very like serendipitous while also just so fitting. Cool.
Check and check. Yes.
Check and check.
That is a great description. That is a great name, Ritalin. It's I love it. It's I mean, I was thinking, and yeah, Hillary, that is a bit better than your background for your name. It's a good name, but the background
Crop tops and Burberry. Anyway, wow. Listen, I was young. It's incorporated now. Who cares? It lives.
No, it's good. Yeah, Ritalin's cool. Cause I mean, I didn't even know it was the medication, but I've heard it in rap songs so much, and it just has to do with like you just hear it rapped on point so much, Ritalin and this, that, middleman. It's it flows in all kinds of ways. So I'm glad she was there that day to help you out with that. I was curious. So you were a media commentator. Who were you a media commentator for, and what was being in a role or position like that like?
Well, over the years, I've had the opportunity to write commentary in a bunch of different forums. So at one point, I was writing for The Spectrum, which was a late great Black community newspaper in Ottawa. So I was writing for that. I've also, all back in the day, I don't know if you folks remember dose.ca, but back in the day, they had like a blog section, and I was writing political commentary blog on there and ranking in the top 5 every week. So I was killing it at that, and then gave that up because that was too boring. But you know, I wanted to be a poet and a rapper, so I had to give that up. But probably the media commentary position that I'm best known for was the 2 years that I spent on CBC Radio 1 in Toronto, where I was writing poetry each week as part of the crew at Here and Now, which is the afternoon drive home radio show on CBC Radio 1 Toronto. And my segment was called A Weekly Dose of Ritalin, which was kind of amazing. And the producer thought it would be hilarious if we did it on a Thursday afternoon at 4:20 p.m. So that's what we did. Seriously. And so I would get on and I would write a poem about something that was happening in the world that had a direct impact on Torontonians. So I wrote poems about you know, the scandal around Lance Armstrong. When he got caught. I wrote poetry about Rob Ford, so much poetry about Rob Ford. I wrote poetry about the Gardner Expressway because they thought it was going to fall down on people. So I wrote a little ditty about that. I actually sung that one. That one was fun. So I wrote a whole bunch of things about all kinds of things, Superstorm Sandy, like just all kinds of things that were going on. And then I ended up, after the segment ended, I actually collected those poems together and published them into a book. So one of my poetry collections is A Weekly Dose of Ritalin. And, I think that it's important as poets, as writers, as thinking people, that we do express our point of view about what's going on. Poets write the commentary of the world as it is, whereas we fight back against those who are trying to write a history of the world as they would like it to be and remain for the future. And so, we have an important role to play as canaries in the coal mine to call out the nonsense as it's going on in real time, and to call the BS what it is. And so that's really what I've done, and I'm looking to continue that. I mean, just this past week, I had an article published in the Globe and Mail talking about important issues to the Black community. So it's something that I continue to do on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, this week you've had a lot of, since the first, when the AfriCANthology came out, you've been keeping me up to date on all of the media releases. So for those looking at the video version, I'm going to hold up the many copies I have in this house, and I will actually use this moment to say, but I'll repeat it again at the end. If you are listening to this, then the contest is already running to win 2 copies, but we're about to tell you why you want a copy. And so I will start by asking, tell us about why you wanted to put together the AfriCANthology, what it means to you, and what for me as a reader was so important was why include all of these perspectives. What was the purpose of doing that?
Well, AfriCANthology is something that I've been thinking about for almost a decade. I've always felt that it would be an important contribution to the literature on Black Canada, to have a collection where folks are not only writing their creative thoughts and expressions, but also writing about their personal lived experiences and combining those. Because usually when we're talking to writers, we get one or the other. We don't often get both together, and neither do we get both together with a whole series of people. So we've got writers from coast to coast who are present in the book, from many different ethnocultural backgrounds, different lived experiences, different origins in the world, whether they're from America or they're from the Caribbean or they're from Africa, or they're from like Tondoué, from Canada, many generations. And we just had all of those folks come together. I really wanted it to be a diverse collection because the Black community of Canada is diverse. The Black community of Canada is complicated. It's not a single community. It's a series of communities, and there are conflicts and frictions between those communities and within those communities. And there are problems that we're dealing with that the rest of society may not even be fully aware that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. I mean, talk to a white lady about her hair, she's going to say something different than a Black lady talking about her hair. You know what I mean? We just have different things that we deal with on an ongoing basis. And so I thought it would be important to get those voices together, encourage them to write creatively and to write personally, put that collection together and offer that as a gift to current and future generations about what's happening within those Black communities here in the 3rd decade of the 21st century.
I can say that I personally completely agree that it is a gift. One of the most touching stories that I read, or essays, if you will, about one of the, there's so many authors, I haven't kept track of who wrote what. I've just been very compelled by the stories, but one of the Jamaican authors who had another Jamaican boy in his class and then started to feel so inferior and not Jamaican enough. And then, whitewashing and assimilating to be like everyone. I've related so much to trying to be like all of the Moncton around me, not like the Senegalese inside of me, not even knowing that person existed and not wanting to let her have a voice at all. And so that one, very like jarring, but so relatable to anyone with even the smallest amount of like Black identity crisis. And I think a lot of us have that crisis, whether we're completely dark skin, light skin, where we fit on the spectrum. It's very hard in such a multicultural, diverse place like Canada to figure out where your Blackness sits within you. So far, everything I've read has been so astounding. And the other thing that really touched me, and I've been able to speak about this a couple of times in different places, is really what I appreciated the most is the amount of people and the networking. And the minute we had our first phone call, you were listing off authors and peoples and rappers and maritime located people who should be on our show. And that, like, before we even really knew each other. And I don't think people understand how Black people think in this like community survival mode. But I wanted to ask you, so that there's another perspective on it, to say out loud why it was so important for you to have this many influential people in it, and how you even get to a place where you know this many sick people, because it's its own directory. Your brain is a directory of cool Black people, and I'm just wondering, how do you get to know all of these amazing artists?
Well, I've been really lucky because, now that I've been around for almost 2 decades doing art in this way, I've gotten the opportunity to work with incredible people. I got invited to a few of the legendary dub poetry festivals that were run by folks like Afua Cooper and Clyde Brooks and Clifton Joseph and Lillian Allen. So I got to meet like the OGs in the dub tradition, and through those connections ended up becoming friends with Debbie Young. I've been exposed to those folks, and so Afua kind of represents that particular aspect in the collection. And of course, Afua Cooper is just an incredible human being and a fantastic scholar, and one of the most important custodians of Black Canadian history in our country right now. So there's that. And then through these networks, I got connected to other folks. So for example, Afua is the one who got me in contact with Webster, who's located in Montreal, is a very well known hip hop artist in the French communities in Quebec, but is also doing incredible work in terms of capturing and archiving the important contributions of Black Canadians in the province of Quebec, both in English and in French. And so I got connected to him, and he put me on to Chloe Savoie-Bernard, who's one of the up and coming, feminist writers in Montreal. And so, we get all of these connections that happen. And then I also know some folks, right? Like Dwayne Morgan and I go all the way back to our teenage years as friends growing up in Scarborough, doing community-based work here in the city. And then I get put on to other folks like Cicely Bell Blaine out in Vancouver, who's one of the co-founders of Black Lives Matter Vancouver, that I got in contact with because of some other folks that I got told about. And then there's other people who are just young and energized, who are just looking for their first major publications to get known within the community. And so that would be somebody like Asante Houghton, who wrote the essay that you were referring to. And Asante is probably best known for his mental health advocacy, but he's also an extremely talented spoken word artist and writer. And so, you end up with all of these different mixes of people. And then the other thing that happens is that folks you didn't even know were around just kind of pop up, and you're like, whoa, let me get in touch with that person. So that's what ended up happening when I found out about Evelyn C. White, who I didn't know was in Canada, is originally from America, lives in the Halifax area, and is, the biographer for Alice Walker. Dude, she lives in Halifax. I have had amazing conversations and interactions with Evelyn C. White. My life is richer because I did AfriCANthology, and I got to work with people I've always respected, people like Afua Cooper, people like George Eliot Clark, people like Andrea Thompson. And then I get introduced to people who are having this incredible impact on me, people like Webster, people like Evelyn, people like Tondway McCarthy, people like Cicely Bell Blaine, people like Valerie Mason John, who I've had who I worked with on The Great Black North, which was the first great, amazing Canadian Black poetry book. Anyway, I could go on and on. Let's just say that I am completely blown away. And And it has been an unbelievably enriching and illuminating experience working with these incredible artists, these incredible human beings.
That's wonderful to hear. And let me say, it's so pleasant to hear you speaking about so many great, talented people so passionately and so empathetically. Like you could tell that you're the right person to put this anthology together, just because you can sense your deep appreciation for these people from all over the country and what you were all able to do together. So the book, did the book drop in January or just now, just a few days ago, just February?
Feb 1.
February 1. Okay, so there probably hasn't been I was going to ask you what the impact and feedback has been so far. Is this enough days to have sort of collaborated some opinions on the book so far? And kind of a two-part question in that same regards. I mean, this is in the summary introduction to the book, but you can tell already that this book is meant to be sort of bold, diverse people from all over the country, but it's bold, unapologetic, sort of in your face, no holding punches kind of a collection. And yeah, I want to know what the impact has been so far and sort of your overall summary of it, because while it's diverse, I think there's some unifying themes that all Black people definitely share. So put that in the question, what has the impact been so far? And if just for the listeners who haven't picked up the book yet, if you can summarize sort of some of the stories, the goal.
Well, I mean, I can tell you that since the book has dropped, we've been starting to get in some different reviews from folks giving us their amazing feedback on what they've read. So, for example, we got a review from Rachel Fernandez of the Miramichi Reader, who says that AfriCANthology is extremely engaging and lively because of the range of voices included in the book, and especially because of the variety of styles at play. Just one of the things that they had to say. Rosemary Sadlier, who is just an incredible figure, a pillar of the Black community, and like the former president of the Ontario Black History Society, who is currently doing international work on equity and inclusion. She gave us some feedback. She was just saying that the AfriCANthology does a tremendous job of raising, exploring, and engaging the reader with the diversity that is the population of people of African descent in this country, whether they're artists or not. And through the introduction, we're invited to see the book as a means to respond to the realities of us. And further, we are warned that this book is both a celebration and a warning, and it is, so we're starting to get this amazing feedback from folks from all over the place, just saying how much this book is already having an impact. And so when I think about how the folks in the book just had no F's left to give, and they just lay it out, bold on the page, in your face, no messing about. We say it like it is. We say it like the experience is being lived today. And, and I think it's important for people to understand when they read this book that it is the unvarnished truth. These are some of the most persuasive truth tellers in the country, and they tell it true and they don't play. So if you're not ready to hear truth, if you're not ready to look at Canada and its unwashed underside, then don't read this book. But if you're willing to think about what kind of Canada can we have move forward, what are some of the things that we can do in order to improve the country that we have, the country that we created out of the stolen territory, and how we can all work together to do whatever we can here on Turtle Island to make this place work for all of us in a better way, pick up this book, because this is going to contribute in a strong way to that kind of a conversation.
Amazing. So to the listeners here, definitely pick up the book, but also I see that you have an event coming up for AfriCANthology. I can't talk today. I've been kids' birthday party all day. On February 25th, and we're going to share this on the page. So what is this event? Is this going to be everyone reading? Are you going through the whole book? Is everyone reading their pieces?
Oh, you know what? We actually have a series of launch events that are happening. And I really want to highlight, especially for the Atlantic folks, that there is some fun stuff that's being planned for Friday, the 11th of February, based out of Fredericton. But I see Hillary telling me she gonna get to that. So let me talk a little bit about.
You can get to it.
I can get to it. All right.
If you want, I can also get to it. I was like, I remember this. Yes.
Yeah, no. So I mean, it's being organized. The Gallery on Queen in Fredericton is doing this in association with the contributors in that community, with Tondoe McCarthy and Gary Weeks, who provided the cover image for this collection. Two members of the brand spanking new New Brunswick Black Artists Alliance. If you haven't heard and you haven't checked it out, go find them and learn more. The first ever arts organization servicing Black people in New Brunswick's history. Give the proper respect on the name of that organization. So they have some plans that they're doing. And on the 25th, we're going to be having the launch event that's based out of Toronto at a different book list, which is an iconic Black-owned bookstore, which is owned by Aita Sadu, who wrote the foreword for AfriCANthology. So we're going to have a bunch of us folks who are going to be doing that. Both of those events are going to have some live streaming virtual aspects. So folks from around the country will be able to tune in for either one of those events.
Amazing. So, I mean, you have been doing this for decades, and, you know, you have built a network of some clearly very talented and passionate people. After this month of promotions and probably promoting this book for a while, have there already been talks about the next one in a couple of years? Has there been some chatter or some thoughts about this?
Chatter.
Where do you see this going is what I want to ask you.
We're well past chatter at this point. So the thing about AfriCANthology, about this beautiful book, is that this is just meant to be the first of a series. It was always intended to be a series of what I envision as the AfriCANthology of Black Canadian culture, the full collection of the books. And the idea is that there will be successive volumes that will look at different aspects of culture. So the AfriCANthology 2 is going to look at fiction. Then we're going to get into looking at music, sport, journalism and media, visual, graphic, and fashion arts, page and stage performers, community leadership, business, politics. So we plan to go all the way through and look at all of the different ways in which Black Canadians have an impact on the Canadian culture and how the specifics around our community and how we interact and deal with things as Black people, how that has had a specific type of impact based out of those ideas. And so the book then becomes the foundation of a not-for-profit organization, AfriCANthology Canada, that houses and takes care of the information and the stories in the books and grows that out to provide us with opportunities to create connection with the various generations in the ways that they can access it. Some of the older generations are going to want to do something like this with the book, but other folks are going to want more digital ways to access, things that we can share on social media. We want to be able to, record stories of our elders and make those available to folks to listen to going forward, and all of these other different kinds of ideas. Those are the kinds of things that we're going to build through the not-for-profit. So this book is just the seed of a much bigger garden. And so, this is the first plant, the first sprout that broke out from the ground, So we have a much bigger vision to get done. So we started like this, and by the time we're done, it'll look like Central Park. Trust.
Wow, that is a big vision. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Dream no small dreams, my friends.
No doubt.
dreams. So I will remind people we're going to give away 2 copies. If you follow the Instagram, there will be information on how to do that. One of those, like this photo post, but I will be saying, if you want to review the podcast, because she's fresh, bonus entries if you leave reviews on this episode, if you're listening to it right now, because we want 5 stars. Let's be honest. I will tie all of this back to you, Greg, and I'm going to put you on the spot. If you want to read some poetry, either your pieces from the AfriCANthology, from the book that came out in November, or it's something spontaneously right now that you're feeling, to like send us off into this. We record on Sundays, on this Sunday night.
Spark the light, ignite, heat up the atmosphere in Kelvin, Celsius, and Fahrenheit. Dance and cast shadows as scorched leaves and wood flicker, and the crowd around the bonfire grows thicker and thicker. Share tales of yore passed down from generation to generation to warm up your thoughts and set a light imagination. When you breathe, feel the blaze of ash-laden air in your lungs. Feed the fire you feel inside. Your conflagration just begun. Stir the embers that singe the sky with every spin, strum, sachet, and stroke. Forever you first notice fire, it is always signaled by smoke. It carries memory of solidity before fuel converts to flame, looks down upon the gathering, reflects upon from whence it came, ascends once freed from inhibition, sets an example we should heed, while chaff-lit incendiary burns at a flame-lit constant speed. Shake the dust from your clothing, use your singular voice to blend with the chorus before us, make inflammatory choice, spark the light, ignite. Boil like lava beneath the calm, then create streams of creativity like volcanic balm. Flow flips from feeble to fire starter, blackened heart seared in flame. When forged in such heat, you can never be the same. Singe the char every last fear, vaporize tears from your eyes, burn bright enough to endear you to the dawn as you rise. To inspire, we must wax like stars, burn celestial bright. Melt excuses with the blaze, and when you feel the moment is right, seize the space to find cleansing through creative delight, then share it with hopeful abandon to everyone within sight. But for those beyond your hand's grasp, burn fury etched deep into their palms. Energy the artistic you emits enriches like spiritual alms. So whether you dance, paint, sculpt, sing, play, act, write, or recite, when your passions ignite, shine when you spark your light.
Woo!
Wow.
Incredible.
I am so glad I was like, I gotta ask.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Powerful send-off.
Wow. I'm floored, blown
Felt that.
away, but also not surprised because of all of the accolades that you have. But I feel like I should have asked you that when you came to my house. Now every time you come over, you must perform.
Duly noted.
Yeah, duly noted. Thank you
Amazing.
so much for that. That was incredible.
Yeah.
Before we send it off, if anyone wants information about the AfriCANthology, about you, where can they find all of that good stuff out?
Well, you know, the AfriCANthology, Perspectives of Black Canadian Poets, was published by Renaissance Press and went out on February 1st. It is available worldwide through online and in-person bookstores here in Canada. So go to whoever your favorite bookseller is, and if they don't got it, then make them order it because it's available and you can get it. If you want to find out more information about the book, about the organization, and about our plans, if you want to actually contribute to our plans, either in terms of your time or your finances, just come and look us up on africanthology.ca. And of course, AfriCANthology is the collision of the words African, Canadian, and anthology. So just put it all together with the can in the middle highlighted, because we are African Canadians doing something big for the history and the future of our people. So thank you all, get your copies, and, you know, by all means, participate in this process of learning, sharing, amplifying, archiving, and carrying forward the stories and the histories of Black people here in this country.
Thank Thank you. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us during especially this crazy media week that you're having. And thank you for obviously the copies that we're going to be giving away, that we're so excited to be sharing all of this amazing work with people. Again, the whole point of this podcast, the work you're doing, everything that you just said, is to continue to educate people about Black voices. We can't just be a podcast. It's also so good to give these resources to people and let people know what's good and what's up. So thank you so much. And if anyone listening wants to find more about us, our social media, Blacklantic on everything except for TikTok. Right now we're Black East Coast on TikTok. Don't worry about it. Find us on Instagram, find us on Facebook, our YouTube channel. We are all over the place. Clinton, any last words?
You can find us on TikTok if you type in Blacklantic. Everywhere, all the guests today followed us on TikTok, especially the youth them. Blacklantic, BLACKLANTIC. That's our website as well, blacklantic.ca. And yeah, anywhere you listen to podcasts is where you can find us. So Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, about 10 other ones that I always forget. But thank you for listening. If you listen till the end, you're a real trooper. So we always appreciate those listeners. And we will see you again next week. Greg, is there anything you want to end off with?
Just deep appreciation to the both of you. Hope people buy the book. Also go on Amazon and cop Cerebral Confections, which was my latest personal collection of poetry. Please, by all means. Sometimes I forget to tell people, that I actually write other things. And if you want to find out more about what I'm up to, then you can look me up on my personal website, which is ritalin.com. And don't forget the double L's.
Ritalin.com with a double L. All right. We will see you next week, and peace.
Bye, everyone.